show. In 2013, our guest today became owners of Gracious Living Adult Day and Healthcare Center in Huntersville, North Carolina. They are currently opening up a new facility in the Charlotte South End, and we're here to talk to them today. Welcome, Michelle and Dwayne Allgood.
So how long have you guys been members at New Zion?
Well, we've been at New Zion since 2006. My mom passed, and that's what got us here. But we became members in 2007.
Okay.
First question, so how did Gracious Living come to be?
We were, in 2002, we were faced with what seemed to be an unsurmountable mountain. My mom had a massive stroke. I was already in New Orleans, for an AAU tournament, and I got a call from my husband telling me that mom had a stroke. It was a massive stroke, and I needed to get home. I was not in any shape to figure out how to get home, so Allgood drove and got off from work, drove down to New Orleans and picked me up. We came back and found that mom was just in a coma. So I just didn't know which way we were going. The doctor's prognosis was poor, and we just had to do what I know to do best.
Right.
And that is to call out and cry out to the Lord.
Yes.
And ask him for guidance through everything we were going through. Of course, it didn't stop there. She was in a coma for probably 2 weeks. And they just told us to put her in a nursing home, that she would not come out of this, that prone position was the best we were going to get. Tell you, when we discovered that the doctors had given up, but that's not what God was saying.
Right.
So you kind of figure out then that you can't use your own muscle. You got to call on the Father and use his. So we did, and we began to see how his hand moved and caused her to come out of a coma, caused her to move and do things that they said she wasn't going to be able to do. They had already placed a feeding tube in her. She didn't want that feeding tube. She wanted to eat food. She didn't want to use briefs. She wanted underwear. It's the little things that you look for. And I said, okay, Lord. So if the Lord has not announced that he was bringing her home, then who were we to count her out?
Right.
So I said, okay, we're going to take this ride. Now, that mountain was huge because we also had the kids at home. Yes. Both were working. And if anybody understands caregiving, it is not for the faint at heart.
Right.
But it was something that the Lord really just put on my heart to continue to do, because my mother never gave up on me. Despite the fact that she was a single parent, she never gave up on my brother and I.
Right.
So I just didn't see where I could give up on her. So we powered through. I know.
No, we didn't power through. She looked at me dead in my eyes and said, "My mama's coming home." I said it was okay.
Okay.
So she did. She came home to live with us, and she got to see things that the doctor said she never would see. They gave her a prognosis that was so poor that she wouldn't live past 90 days.
Wow.
Well, I'm here to tell you it's almost been 20 years.
Right.
So
I love Mimi. I love Mimi.
Yes, that's right. So of course, when you're trying to find out how you work caregiving into your schedule, things like work come up.
Right.
And that wasn't working because at the time I was working for Bell South, and they, of course, want you to work.
Right.
But when you're trying to have, we tried all kinds of things, even, family, but they're working, home health. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. It just didn't work for us.
Right.
So I announced to my husband that, I think that I'm going to have to quit my job.
He was still working for Estes at the point in time, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
At the time, I had gone to Miami right after Katrina.
Right.
And she called me and she said, "Allgood." I'm like, "Yes, I'm quitting my job." I said, "Huh?" She said, "I'm quitting my job." I said, "Wait a minute." She said, "I'm quitting at the end of the year." I'm like, "Wait a minute. I'll be home in a couple of weeks."
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I got home, she had already quit. And I'm like, "Michelle," she said, "Well, they got to pay me to the end of the year." And what I was looking at was our finances.
Okay.
Because that's what most men do.
That's right.
And at the time, I just beginning to start driving for Estes.
Mm-hmm.
And over half our salary was gone. And I wasn't happy with it, and I tell people, because they say it's not a God, and I say it is a God.
Right.
Because she was making $100,000+. And she walked away from that. My mother-in-law is striving for that. We're striving for that.
Mm-hmm.
Our life has gotten better, but look, we did not miss a beat.
No.
That's God.
That's God.
Yeah.
Nothing
That's
we
God.
did.
That's
Nothing
God.
we did, but we did not miss a beat.
Yeah. And so when I did leave, of course, when it's mama, you don't think about all of that stuff.
Right.
I mean, I was thinking about our family and everything, but during that time, we also had, of course, wonderful teaching from Pastor Williams, and he was talking about, maybe this was the time that God had to put us back in order.
That's right.
Because while I was primarily in the eyes of the world, the breadwinner, we were out of position, really.
Right.
The breadwinner was over here, and so we maybe needed to readjust kind of the things that we were looking at and doing in our household.
Okay.
And I can tell you that having to step out and really follow how God moves you, it's not for the faint.
It's not.
It is very difficult to do because it's scary.
Right.
You don't know what's next.
Right.
And the only thing that I could hold on to was my word and prayer and the fact that God would show me that mom was improving. So when you see things like that seem remarkable, because the tests don't say that she should be doing this.
Right.
The test and everything that the doctor sees, it's not supposed to look like this.
That's right.
But as we know, faith followers, we know that it's not always going to be how it looks.
Right.
And so when I saw improvement, and mom basically worked me out of my home job by taking care of her, because she was looking at me and I was looking at her. And the Lord was saying, okay, now you guys are here. Now I need you to go a little higher. There's more work to be
Time for
done.
you to elevate.
There you go. And that is the birth of the Ministry of Gracious Living.
Good.
Because that's where we needed to be. I mean, we needed to now make sure that other people who needed to work had the ability to have supportive, caring, loving, hands and feet of Christ workers, making sure that everybody gets what they need during the day while their loved ones are working, So,
Good.
it's just that's really where the birth happened of the ministry.
That's good.
So I've had the pleasure of working at Gracious Living and seeing what you guys do there, and it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. So tell us, what's a typical day at Gracious Living like for your participants?
Wow. Well, for the participants, it starts even before they get there. Anyone that opens up Gracious Living knows, and Melissa is one of my nurses that opens for me, or myself. And what we do is we do begin by worship and praise in the morning. Before the participants ever get in, we usher in the Spirit of the Lord and let God know that, hey, this is your territory. We bow to you. And then as they come in, we open at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. is early for many of our participants, but we have people that work and need a early morning drop off.
So it's necessary.
Yes.
It is very necessary.
So when they come in, you may see some smiling faces that come in, or you may see grumpy faces. Like, some of them come in and say, this is too early, or I didn't sign up for this, or I need my bed, or whatever. But they come in, they are seated, they hear the music, the praise and worship. They receive a cognitive exercise in the morning, and that's what they'll begin their day with, word search, picture find. Then during that time, we may begin to even get some dressed for the day. We give showers. They go into breakfast.
Yes. Before breakfast at 7 o'clock, they're actually on listening and participating in New Zion prayer group at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That has become a staple, and one thing that they do enjoy in the morning. They're looking forward to it. We have one participant that if Melissa or myself hadn't started getting on the line, she's over there trying to fumble on the phone to try to figure out how she can get the line up. Somebody need to put the prayer line on. So, yes, that is a great thing that they love to do. They like to hear the songs, the prayer. That's, so.
Shout out to New Zion's prayer line.
Yes.
It's working. It's working.
It's working. It is. It gives encouragement, because that is what we want them to have. The ministry of Gracious Living is not only for the caregiver, it's also for the participant, so that they are encouraged and they know that if the Lord woke them up that morning, they were called to be productive. You still have life in you, so you need to be living and not just existing.
Okay, so my question, what's the advice, or what would you tell somebody who is looking to put their family member that may be a little bit apprehensive about putting them in adult daycare or some of those places? We've heard stories about, someone's parents not wanting to go to places like that, or a home or something like that. So to that, what would you say?
Well, now I'm not a proponent of putting people in nursing homes.
Right.
That's just, if they can remain at home with a loved one, then and attend Adult Day in Health or some program such as a Gracious Living, then I think that is the win-win situation for everyone.
Right. Because
they get to socialize and have fun and do activities throughout the day and go home at night, share, with their family. I know that for my mom, it's been a wonderful thing, because she gets to completely ignore me during the day. I mean, that, she does what she does with her friends. And then in the evening, she comes home and to us.
And try to tell us what to do at home.
And she does. That's right. So, I mean, they shouldn't be apprehensive about it. I mean, anything's a big step, but I tell you, visit the facility. Make sure you ask the questions that need to be asked, like how many staff members do you have? Right. What's your cleaning protocol? What is it that just the questions that you really want to make sure your loved one is in a safe and secure area, so that they can have a wonderful day and not be plagued with germs or disease. I know COVID is one of those things that first and foremost on everybody's mind. You know, we did not have that problem. What you want to make sure of is that people are there to love on your loved one, to actually engage your loved one. That's the most important thing.
Well, I will say she's worked there. I volunteered there.
Yes.
And I've enjoyed every opportunity that I have. I even hate when I have to work and I can't get there because I just love it that much. And it's very spacious. To those people that want to know, it's very spacious. They're very loving. Their experience there is great. So if somebody wanted to get more information from you about Gracious Living, how can they get in contact with you?
They can call 704-997-5032. That's our direct number. One of the receptionists will answer the phone. Or they can go on our website and fill out, it's www.graciouslivingadhcc.com. And they can fill out an inquiry form and we'll get back to them.
All right.
Yes, I do want to say this. When they come, 3 to 4 things happen. One, they know they're going to be loved on. Two, when they leave that afternoon to go back home to tell their family about what happened that day, it's either going to be work, school, or they was at church.
Right.
Yes.
That's the 3 things that they take away from Gracious Living, that they're at work, they're at school, or they were at church and they had a wonderful time.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Well, we thank you for coming and letting us know about Gracious Living. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.